there, wormies. Should disabled people get special preferential treatment over normal people? Last time we discussed discrimination in the workplace, expanding on scenes from Netflix K-drama Extraordinary Attorney Woo. In this video, we're going to discuss Attorney Kwan's point in this scene.
우변이 대표님 백으로 들어온 낙하산인 게 웃깁니까? 다 같이 분노하고 긴장해야 될 일 아닌가?
왜 분노를 하고 긴장을 해요? 그거 다 같이?
부정취업이니까.
무슨 소리 하는 거예요? 영우가 부정취업을 했다는 증거 있어요?
우변 아버지가 대표님 방에서 나오는 걸 봤어요. 생각해봐요.
그냥 영우를 괴롭히고 싶은 거면서 정의로운 척하지 말란 말이에요. 진짜로 사내 부정을 문제 삼고 싶으면 대표님부터 문제 삼으세요. 왜 강자는 못 건드리면서 영우한테만 그래요?
그러니까 우영우가 강자예요. 모르겠어요? 로스쿨 때 별명도 어차피 1등은 우영우였다면서요. 이 게임은 공정하지가 않아요. 우영우는 우리를 매번 이기는데 정작 우리는 우영우를 공격하면 안 돼. 왜? 자폐인이니까. 우리는 우변한테 늘 배려하고 돕고 저 차에 나온 빈자리 하나까지 다 양보해야 된다고요.
Welcome to my channel. You've come to the right place to be your authentic, weird, and wormy self. I'm Hannah and I have autism and ADHD. I make weekly videos on this channel rating the representation of neurodiversity in the media so you can make an informed decision on what to read or watch. Hit that like and subscribe button to join the neurodiverse bookworm family so you don't miss out on the latest review. It's a privilege to have my best friend who's also on the spectrum, Lina from Norway, joining us again for part 2 of this discussion of autism in the workplace. Hi, Lina.
Hi, Hannah.
Thanks for joining me again to talk about autism at work.
Thank you for letting me have you. I'm very grateful for that.
Yeah, it was great having you in part 1 about bullying and discrimination, and part 2 is the continuation of that, and we're going to be talking about the question, should disabled people get special preferential treatment? What do you think?
No, that's a good question. I think if you get in a situation where you're about to get like burned out, like I said in last episode, or if you really meet obstacles because of your autism, then you should absolutely get support, tutoring, help, and advices, and the people are patient with you. But I think, to me, like in the job I have now, I told my boss that I am on the spectrum, and she was like, is there anything I can do for you? Is there anything I can do to help you? Is there anything you really need, like more time or anything like that? And at that moment there wasn't really anything specific I could think about in my working situation. But on the other side, in the kindergarten where I worked, I should really had it. I needed it back then, but I didn't got it. So my answer to that is that you necessarily don't need the support in advance if you don't need it. You can ask for it, but the most important thing for me is that getting the help when you need it.
Mm-hmm.
But people are different. People are different. Some people would say, I would need support from day one, and there's nothing wrong about it.
Yeah, no, there's nothing wrong with asking for or needing support. I mean, even neurotypical people are going to need support in some areas. Not everybody can do everything. In fact, that's unreasonable. You're going to have strengths that I don't have, and vice versa. And so in Extraordinary Attorney Woo, Attorney Kwan makes this point because he's mad that Woo is getting special treatment, and he doesn't want to treat her better, and he's just bullying her, and he thinks it's unfair that they're not allowed to treat her like anyone else and not give her support. But I think that like everyone needs supports. It's just different things. And one point I would make about this is, let's get rid of the whole disability thing for the sake of this example and think about being a very short person. So if you're a very short person, you're going to need a ladder to reach the things that a really tall person would have no trouble reaching. You'll need a ladder or a stool. And it's kind of like that with disability. No one will bat an eye if you need a stool to reach something way up high or have to ask a tall person to reach it for you. Okay, great. But if you're disabled, you're already at a disadvantage, and these supports and accommodations are going to sort of level that playing field, so you don't have to strive twice as hard to reach the same place as everyone just is.
Yeah. I did hear that metaphor once. It's like, if you can't reach the shelf, it's not necessarily because you're too short. It just might be that the shelf is too high up.
Well, that's also a good point. And they could bring the shelf down a bit. And accommodations for one group of people may actually make things easier for another group of people that didn't originally necessarily need that accommodation. For example, if we're thinking of ramps that are built for wheelchair users, they don't just benefit wheelchair users, they benefit people using strollers or delivery people with dollies or anyone using wheels.
I don't know if you have like in USA, but at least in Norway, and I do think in many other European countries we have like, there will always be people who cannot work full time because of the exhaustion. And there will be people who cannot work full time because of different kind of obstacles. But there is like a system where you get half of your salary from the employee and half of the salary from the welfare benefit center, like from the government, basically.
Yeah, I don't know how that works here. I've heard it's really, difficult. I think we have less protections than you do in Europe, unfortunately. So what kinds of supports and accommodations do you need to do your current job well?
I think what I need, and that I'm fortunate to get, it's patience and time. Because I think I forgot to say what my profession is now. I think in English it would be like practical licensed nurse. So I'm a caregiver in a home facility for people with deficits. They need a predictable everyday life with daily routines. Then they don't like stress, they don't like fuss, they don't like when their routines get messed up. And I think like I'm just like that.
Yeah, and so that plays into your strength.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm very happy about where I work now, because where I work now I don't need really accommodate. I don't need things getting like in order for me to make it work out, because it already works out really good where I work now. But I have had my amounts of places where it didn't work out, but where I'm now it really is really good.
For sure, that's probably the biggest accommodation we need, is to find a job that plays into our strengths. So in terms of accommodations, do you think it's better to disclose that you're autistic or have a disability, or to keep it a secret?
Oh wow, it really depends because I've had both. I've had bosses and colleagues that I told that I am autistic, which I really regret because it was held against me. And I've had like places where I really regret telling that I'm autistic. And I also had places where I was embraced for telling that I'm on the spectrum and that people really thought of it as something positive. Like the boss I told you about that said, what can I do for you? Is there anything I can do to make you feel that you manage your work? That's when I told that boss, I really appreciate that, but here I don't need accommodation because it works out really well. So I had both. I've had really, really disgusting bosses who didn't understand that being autistic is not a nasty disease. And I've had bosses that have really embraced me for telling them that I'm autistic. I've had both. But I think you should also know that if you tell your colleagues that you are autistic, the chances are that rumors got it, because you think you can trust a coworker, but you can't always do that because maybe they'll forget to think it's a secret. Maybe I say, did you know that? Oh, I shouldn't say that, but she's autistic, and then everybody knows. So I think like if you tell one coworker that you really think you can trust, you can't always do. I've had that. I told a coworker I really trust that I'm autistic, and woof, that's when everyone knew it.
People should respect that. My opinion is like I'm open about it, but there are definitely people who can't be open about it because even though they're suffering in their current position, like they have no recourse, and if they tell it's going to be worse. But I'm overall more on the side of disclosure because it gives people a framework to understand you better. And most people are not absolute assholes, and once they understand that you're not deliberately doing things to be bad or whatever, they're generally a bit nicer. And I have discovered, like, my current bosses are great, and I've told them that I need them to communicate very clearly and directly with me. It's best, especially if they communicate really important stuff to me by writing, so I can check it as many times as I need to, and that I may not see right away what needs to be done without being told to do it. It's not that I'm lazy, not at all. I want to work hard, but I'm gonna need someone to point it out and say, go do this, very directly, like that.
Absolutely, and there are a lot of things that doesn't come automatically for me. It's like there's one thing that is like really a day of my daily routine for many years now, and that's like emptying the dustbin. For many years it didn't come naturally for me when I in my working situation, and naturally there will be people talking about it. Hey, Lina doesn't empty the dustbin, or taking the dishes. It took me years just to say, Lina, it's a part of the job, you have to do it. And really, it wasn't because I was lazy or because I didn't want to do it. It's just like it didn't come to me like intuitive. There are many things that doesn't come to me intuitive that I have to be told. And as soon as they get a part of the routine, there's not a problem anymore. But I just have to get there, that it is a day of the routine. And that's why I think it works so good in the care home where I work, because it's routines, the same routines every day. Eat, sleep, repeat. Eat, sleep, repeat. And that suits me so well because my job is so predictable. But I could never ever have worked in another like care home where the patients are different, where they have different kinds of needs. It only works for me because the residents, the patients where I work they rely so much on the same routines. That's the only reason it really works so well where I am now.
Back to disclosing, like at the beginning of your job and the hiring process, in episode 1 of Attorney Wu, I really like how they point out the issue where Attorney Jung, who's the supervising attorney, he sees all of Wu's qualifications, but he skips over that as soon as he sees the second page of her resume, which discloses that she's autistic.
혹시 이력서 뒷장도 보셨습니까? 자폐라고 적혀 있다던데요.
봤어요, 뒷장.
아, 보셨는데도 이런 친구를 받으신 겁니까?
변호사님이야말로 뒷장에만 꽂혀서 앞장 안 본 거 아니에요? 서울대 로스쿨 수석 졸업에 변호사 시험 성적 1500점 이상. 이런 인재를 한 바다가 안 데려오면 누가 데려옵니까?
암기력만 뛰어나도 성적은 나옵니다. 저는 의뢰인 만날 수 있고 재판 나갈 수 있는 변호사가 필요한데 사회성도 좋아야 하고 언변도 필요한데 자기소개 하나 제대로 못하는 사람을 어떻게 가르칩니까?
변호사님 첫 출근 날 자기소개 잘했어요.
잘하지 않았습니까? 네, 그러니까 제 말씀은 저랑은 다르지 않습니까?
뭐가 다르지?
네, 정 그러시면 신입한테 사건 하나 맡겨보겠습니다. 자격 미달인지 아니면 장애인에 대한 제 편견인지 시험해보겠습니다. 만약 우영우 변호사가 의뢰인 만날 수 있고 재판 나갈 수 있는 수준이 아니라고 판단되면 그때 내보내도 되겠습니까?
그러세요, 그럼.
네.
How soon in the process of getting hired and starting to work, if you decide to disclose, should you? Because if you don't disclose, then maybe you can't get the protections by law. But if you do disclose, perhaps your employer will find something else to get you for that's not protected.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's a problem. It's like you're in the between. Like, should I disclosure and risk being rejected, or should I keep it a secret? But then again, I'll have to mask forever.
At least Attorney Jung learns he's willing to apologize and learn, give her a chance to prove herself, and eventually he comes to the point where he'll advocate for her when a client discriminates, and even tells Attorney Kwan, who's always bullying Wu, that instead of looking to punish her for something, he ought to learn from her.
난 우영우 변호사가 꽤 잘하고 있다고 보는데 사건에 집요하게 매달리는 힘도 좋고 발상도 창의적이고 잘 보면 권민우 변호사도 우변한테 배울 점이 있을 거예요. 원래 동료들끼리도 배우는 거잖아. 서로. 네.
Why should employers look to hire autistic people? What can we bring to a business?
We are reliable.
Mhm.
We are trustworthy. We pay attention to details. We have a very good long-term memory. We find it really important not to let people down. I think we have like a good sense of consciousness for the work we do. We are more likely to not have double standards. That doesn't mean that people without autism don't have double standards, aren't predictable. Of course not. But still, we are more likely to just being afraid of letting people down, and we keep on working, keep on what we're meant to do. It's very important for us not to be a failure, and we just work and work.
We focus on our work, and we're very detailed, and when we find something to do, we do it with 110%
We do.
effort. We're not
Yeah.
like given over so much to the office politics and drama. We're just there, focus on our work, do the best job we can,
Yeah.
to please.
And we often don't speak with two tongues. We just do what we do, and we know how important it is that the tasks are clear, and that's also why we are very clear back when we give response. We don't kind of mix up things and blah blah. We just say how it is.
So what would you like employers in general to know when hiring autistic people?
I would say not believing in the prejudice you always hear about autism, because if you go on Wikipedia and read about autism, you can get a shock, like non-empathic, blah blah blah. It's really horrible what you can read about autism on the internet. So I would say to any employee, please, please, please don't believe in what you read on the internet. When it comes to autism, you should really get to know that person and see what you see. What you see is what you get. We're just like anybody else. Like if you met someone with autism, you met someone with autism, not everyone else. And really, there are so many bad prejudices about autism out there, and you shouldn't believe in all of them. That's what I want to say to people who would hire people with autism. Just get to know that person, and afterwards you can say, this is good, this is not that good, this is bad, this is brilliant.
Exactly.
Just
Give us a chance. Get to know us, and please, like, the interview process is so ridiculous, because if you don't know the right social dance steps and you somehow mess up the interview, no matter how well qualified you are, you're not very likely to get that job. So social skills and being able to pass as neurotypical are more important, it seems, than your actual qualifications, which I think leads to the statistic of autistic people being overqualified and underemployed.
That's true. And I would also, I think being open is really a good thing. But unfortunately, I think that because of lack of knowledge about autism, I don't think I would ever say in a job interview that I am autistic, because that minimizes the chances of getting the job in the first place. But if I get a job, I could eventually see if that's a boss that would understand autism, that would be understanding and everything. But saying that on a job interview without knowing if that person have any knowledge about autism, I wouldn't take that risk. And it's really, really a pity to say that, because in my dream society, you would be open about anything, anytime, everywhere. But the reality is that the society isn't like that.
I've only really had success getting a job through connections, and that's actually what episode 7 and 8 bring up. Is it nepotism, that Wu's father uses his connection with the owner of that particular law firm to get her a job she otherwise wouldn't have gotten, when everyone else, had to go through the proper channels of applying and whatnot. And that's kind of been my experience. Like, I grew up in this one place, my parents worked at this one place for most of my life, and it was easy for me to get a job there, and the interview was basically a formality. And any other job I've worked, I've gotten it through like connections recommending me. But where I've tried like on my own to put out resumes and other things, nobody responds. And if I do get a job, like for example, that dishwashing job, I was really lucky to get it. I mean, they were the only person that responded to me and were even willing to look at me, which is quite unfortunate. Like, I'm really good. I learn things fast.
Yeah.
When I work hard. I give my best, but people are just not willing to get to know me and give me a chance, unfortunately.
Oh, that's really bad. It's it's horrible. It's just not how it should be.
And I don't know if you've run into this problem, but at that dishwashing job, my boss didn't particularly care whether I came to the company Christmas party or any other social events that the restaurant had. But other, like that one dishwasher guy and the line cook that always kind of had it out for me, they didn't like that I wasn't interested in attending these company socials. And what does that have to do with my ability?
Yeah, I can absolutely get it. It's pretty much the same here. If you don't attend to a Christmas party, and you're invited and you decline, then people will say, "Hey, why would anyone decline a free Christmas party with a lot of good food and having a lot of good time? Why wouldn't she join?" It's like, that's weird. And especially if you go there after all and you get to go early, people will say, "Why do you leave so early? We're having a great time." And you're more or less expected to go out for having drinks. That's the worst part, because hey, I can always go out for a free meal. Why not? Having a little small talk for a couple of hours with my coworkers, okay, that's fine. But going out for drinks, that's where I feel the pressure, because I like a glass of beer, I like a glass of wine, but going out with all this loud music and all these nightclubs and having to talk louder and louder in order to hear each other, that's not my stuff at all. And that's where I feel stressed out, because it's not always respected that you don't want to go out for a night.
People should be respectful of you and not hold your social behavior against you, as long as you know you're not hurting other people. If you are able to do the actual duties of your job well, it really shouldn't matter that much.
After all, it's about protecting yourself from noise and all that stuff around you, because you need all that rest. After a long day of work, you don't always have the energy to go out for a dinner and partying. It's like,
right, yeah, work in and of itself is stressful enough, and we need more time to relax and unwind. It just takes us longer. The world is more intense for us.
it is, most certainly.
Thanks a
Thank
lot,
you,
Lina,
Anna.
for joining us today and sharing your
Yeah,
experiences.
I
Looking forward
enjoyed
to
it a
having you
lot.
back.
Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. So see you then.
I'm putting a link in the description to your workplace rights and what to do if you believe you're experiencing discrimination at work. So are you getting the supports you need to thrive in the workplace? What would you like bosses to know about hiring you? Let's continue this discussion down in the comments. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe if you found this video helpful. Click here for part 1 of autism in the workplace. And if you're interested in more neurodiversity related content, click here to see my latest review.